Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Brenton of Insurrection with Brenton Lengel. I formerly carried on the Starcom radio network, now carried on the internet because, I just decided that I'd like fewer people to see me, but more people to see my face. Guys, seriously, this is the moneymaker. So I am here. I'm joined with Bobby B of the 5x5 podcast, the formerly 5x5, now Moustache Mafia, and he just watched the debate that I did with TJump on Black Lives Matter, and that's what we're going to be talking about.
Boy, did I.
So I'll tell you, I got more emotional at the beginning of that debate than I think I have on other ones, and I think it's because I know TJump, and I saw him as not just a freaking Nazi. So, which just made everything stupid fucking thing he was saying way worse. So why don't you give me? You don't know TJump. You're coming in. What was your impression of the debate? Yeah.
Well, the reason I think that people are getting more and more emotional right now, and I don't blame you, because I wasn't going to smoke tonight, and then I lit up some fine Nicaraguan tobacco while that was going on. Don Pep and Garcia, kids, don't smoke them, because then I'll have less of them to smoke in the world. But I think we're living through the failure of a political movement in this country, which is the right wing. And it's becoming more and more apparent as you critically examine right-wing talking points that it's a failed movement that doesn't have our values as Americans, our values as humans at this point, really in mind. Because I was on Twitter a little today because I was a little sick, but I'm noticing that I don't think there is an alt-right anymore. I think there was an alt-right at one point, but now those talking points are so mainstream that you're going to hear them coming out of somebody's mouth like TJump, because he started off, his first point was the 1530 or 1550 or 1350. I don't remember now.
I hope I shut that down quickly enough, because I freaking hate that point.
I mean, you did, but at the same time, it's so freaking mainstreamed, and people don't do the reading, or they don't examine things critically, that you're going to keep addressing that over and over and over and over again in these debates. And I don't blame you for getting frustrated. Being frustrated and being angry in a debate isn't the best tactic, but sometimes it's warranted, because people assume that you're losing the debate. I mean, I think everybody in the country just watched an awful debate last night, and this debate went much better than that.
Oh God. It's interesting, because I held off from watching most of the Trump Biden debate, because I want to do a commentary video on it while I watch it more or less in real time. Or at least I wanted to hold off on that, because I was also writing. I was working on Snow White Zombie issue number 5. Yeah. And TJump, I watched several of his other debates, and did he ever figure out that his reasoning was circular?
No, I don't think he did. And a lot of his talking points, I was writing them down at first, are kind of silly. He's saying that Black Lives Matter has a political goal instead of wanting to better people's lives. Bettering the lives of minority populations in any country is a political goal.
That's literally the definition of political goal.
It has to be a political goal. The other thing that was really weird was that he said that they needed to be more respectable at the beginning. He didn't really hammer on that. But that's the oldest racist talking point. They used that literally against the civil rights movement that he was
which he's apparently all for, because it happened in the past. But when he sees the same freaking thing happening now,
which is a real problem, because we have to have people kind of confront these issues that are going around right now, and they're very uncomfortable doing it. And there's so many talking points, even more now than in the 1960s, that they can just use to not address that uncomfortable truth. Like Thomas Sowell is the poster. If you're not familiar with Thomas Sowell, if you're listening to this, you're not familiar with Thomas Sowell, good. But he's literally the poster boy for unscientific economics. He's not a valid source for literally anything. If Thomas Sowell tells you the sky is blue, you need to go outside and check twice.
Absolutely. By the way, we had a couple comments come in. I just want to read these out because I'm happy about them. So we had from Munda Skeptical, anti-racist Brenton 1. Heck yeah. Thank you, Moon to Skeptical.
Yeah,
and then Moon to Skeptical went along. I'm caught up on Homage to Catalonia and look forward to the next stream. I am too. When do you think we can make chapter 5 happen?
I'll have my notes ready tomorrow. Not right now, but I'll have them done. I read it over, and I'll read it again for notes.
Absolutely. We've got It's Still X. These post-debate breakdowns are always fun. Thank you. I enjoy them too. And it's important for me to blow off like the steam from it. Because I was thinking today would be relatively relaxed. Because I thought the debate was last week and I prepared for it up until the point when the debate was going to happen. Like I wrote my opening statement. Normally, like I'm finishing that opening statement just a few minutes before I go on. But I had everything done. I had all of my stuff. And then like I rewatched his debate with Jake. And I was just like, no, I can't take this. Like, I can't not take this seriously. And so I started doing more research and so I need to express the overwhelming consternation that this whole thing caused.
Yeah, it's super frustrating, man. Like I'm noticing it more. You can't see me because I have a medical condition where I have a disembodied voice, but I'm a white guy. I'm a white disembodied voice. So like I've noticed it a lot more over the last 10 years than I did in the years before that.
It seems like our country has somehow gotten more racist.
Yeah, I don't know if we've gotten more racist because it is important to have a measure of the progress that we've made because, go back to 1920 because we're in 2020 now. And in 1920, you do have de jure segregation. You have police in the South. I'm in Florida. You have police in this state that were requesting. They invented essentially plus pressure bullets to kill mythical black men that were hopped up on cocaine. And that was a mainstream thing. You have. I
think that was a plot of one of the episodes of Luke Cage.
Yeah, it was. And that was a real thing that happened. And I was like, ooh. But, we had that. The town that I'm living in, we have a beach, and it was a sundown town up until like the 1980s. You had de jure actual banning of certain ethnic groups from holding jobs. So we have made progress. Yeah. We're more aware of race now because we have we have more media to actually like document the racism. Because before, if you lived in a more progressive northern city or more progressive area of the country, you might not notice the racism as much.
Yeah.
But now, you post it on YouTube and the whole country sees it 5 minutes later. And we also have more lenses to view these issues through. Like the studies that you both were referencing did not exist 100 years ago because people did not think it was an issue. It's big in the news, and it's going to be a subject of the next episode I do of my show. Critical race theory.
By the way, I still want these mythical 4 studies that he keeps, because he never seems to say the name of the studies. He's just like, I have 4 studies.
Well, because he's either misrepresenting it or they don't exist. And I don't want to call like him a liar because I don't know him, and you say he's a decent guy. So he's probably taking cherry points of or cherry picking these studies. There's a study I sent.
He mentioned that one of them was like 2015. Yeah. And then like I went and a lot of my studies like came since 2015
because we're constantly studying this.
Yeah.
One of the points that he made, and a lot of people on the right like to make, is that black people need to make quote unquote better choices. There's a really important study. I tried to send it to you before the debate. I don't think it went through.
Yeah, wait. I did get it, but I didn't get it before the debate. Yeah, you should have.
Yeah, I need to up my assistance game there, buddy. But
explain what the hell this study is.
So Duke University actually published a thing called "What We Got Wrong About Closing the Racial Wealth Gap." You can read it for free on the internet. You don't have to pay to read a journal, and it's written in pretty decent.
I'll put it into the chat for people.
Yeah, one of the things that they found to debunk the black culture myth is that black parents were disproportionately involved in their children's education, and black people disproportionately made the quote unquote good choices that he's saying that their culture doesn't encourage them to. And I mean, it's just all of these myths just get debunked in this. Like the hard work myth gets debunked. Everything that these people say, like that black culture is the problem.
Yeah, this would have been
seems
really
that
good
the
to have
opposite is
before the
true.
debate.
Yeah, it really would, and I'm a jerk. I'm a terrible human being. Please excuse my lack of foresight on that one. And the idea that it's a quote unquote cultural issue
Mhm.
it's just it's so weird. Like that shows that like that they want black people to be more like white people, I guess, is
Yeah.
the implication of that. Where or like
Which
there's
makes me
something
feel
about
like, do you think they never thought of that? Like, do you think
literally
black
they
people
did.
were like, yeah, huh? Maybe if I call the police officer sir, maybe that'll go well. No, this of course they do that.
No, yeah. And yes, by the way, yes, black people do get disproportionately shot by the police. That is
Yeah,
a statistical
it's a
fact.
fact, and the idea that like it's the weirdest argument because
Yeah.
it's they're getting shot in proportion to the crime they commit, which are reported by the people shooting them.
Yeah, and you can actually find too what you were talking about, like unreported crime, which people
Yeah.
think is kind of crazy.
Mhm.
You can actually find data on that in the Uniform Crime Report that's published. I believe it's every year or 2 years.
Mhm.
I used to read it, but it's too depressing. But
Yeah.
even for me, there's also there are a lot of murders that go unreported and unsolved in this country, and a lot of police departments do pad their numbers. There's a book called Mythology of Crime and Criminal Justice that actually gets used as a textbook on this subject. Where one of the interesting things I took away from that is that they actually purposely inflate the number of serial killers that are active in the country to attribute murders to.
Oh, because they don't know that they can't solve. They're just
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. Oh, it must be an active serial killer. So
yeah,
so there's just all kinds of unreported crime like that. So when you hear that the first time, unreported crime, you think that's crazy.
yeah.
But it's definitely a thing because there are barriers to reporting crime.
Well, yeah. Well, not only that, but also there's a ton of unsolved crimes, and especially
Yeah.
like what I mentioned in the debate was like they're counting in that black people are responsible for 50% of the murders. They're counting people who are like, oh, the murderer was some black guy.
Yeah.
Like, like that was literally a joke on South Park.
Yeah. And the other thing he tried to use as empirical evidence a Pew poll about whether or not people felt that they experienced
Oh,
systemic racism.
I
That
meant
doesn't.
to, yeah, I meant to address that too because who cares what they think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously we do care what
Yeah.
people think, but like that doesn't disprove the
The
existence of
existence of it. Yeah,
systemic
no.
racism.
Well, what I mean is, who cares? Like, if you
Yeah.
ask me, like, have you ever been the victim of like class-based discrimination? I will say absolutely.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, well, has it significant? Has it been the deciding factor of your life? No, I'm not going to say that even if it was the deciding factor of my life, because I like to think that I can overcome things like that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's our Horatio Alger myth as a culture. We
Yeah.
always want to believe that we can overcome everything. That's what we try to sell people.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't hold water. That's the thing. And the other thing was that the subject of this debate was supposed to be all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter. That was the title of it. And like, if all lives matter, why
wouldn't Black Lives Matter?
why wouldn't we spend why wouldn't Black Lives Matter? B, why did we spend like an hour and a half arguing that it's justified to shoot black people?
From the thing, yeah, I was making a joke. This is from our chat. I was making a joke about TJump's mysterious study. He never specifies. He never freaking specifies them. I'm going to stay on him about that.
You should.
I want to see these studies.
Yeah. I mean, there's other studies. The Department of Justice, I believe it was. I don't have it in front of me right now. They published a study that confirmed that black people get much worse sentencing than white people for the same crime. White people use drugs at a higher rate than black people and are a bigger part of the population, yet are arrested less often. I mean, these are.
They also we more often have contraband, but are searched for contraband less.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And what got me just like on the whole thing is it's so weird because he will admit that the government was racist.
Yeah.
But these racist policies exist now. And he's like, but it's not the cops.
Well, I mean, like, you can have good cops, but you have a messed up system,
Yeah.
right now. And I don't doubt that there's a lot of very dedicated police officers out there who really do believe in what they believe in. I know.
I'd say about 1/3 of the cops out there.
Yeah,
are they give a crap. 1/3 don't care, and 1/3 are actively psychopaths and bullies.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to scientifically. Yeah, but like that doesn't justify the racist sentencing procedures. That doesn't justify the racist way we enforce the law. That doesn't justify the disproportionate sentencing between regular cocaine and crack. That doesn't justify over policing of black neighborhoods. That doesn't justify the cultural biases that we all kind of get through media. A lot of people they have done research on this. When they say criminal, people picture a person of color. And you know what? Like the way to solve for bad cops isn't to, well, I mean, it is obviously punish bad cops individually as they pop up as you get them, but it's to reform a system that creates bad cops. So instead of having a system that is institutionally racist, you have a more equitable system. No policing system is ever actually going to be perfect.
Yeah. No. It's so weird, by the way, I should add, and somebody said, right, it's not cops as individuals, it's their institutional role.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you notice that during the debate, TJump said he didn't believe in implicit racism?
No, I didn't catch that one.
He literally said he doesn't believe in subconscious racism. He doesn't believe that's a thing.
I mean, they've proven it. Like people have it. I mean, there's some cringy stuff that people use to try to demonstrate it, like that clicky test that Oprah put out like a few years ago.
Where it's like you click on to see if good or bad, and to get darker or whatever.
But I mean, like that's definitely a thing. The other weird thing that I noticed is that he referenced Hobbs as like the model for the social contract. And I like reading the Leviathan. It's actually a really good book. And I think that Hobbs of the social contract theorists does the state of nature the best. But Hobbes's end goal for a society is a military dictatorship. Like a hardcore authoritarian military dictatorship. And that was like part of his argument too, was that he's not like the great thing about the United States in our founding and our ideology is that we're supposed to be a society based on consent nominally. I mean, we don't always live up to that. But the argument that he was making isn't like build up a society that doesn't have crime because it's such a great society. His argument is put more cops in and use authority to stamp down on crime, which never
it doesn't work.
It hasn't worked anywhere.
Criminals, which was weird because I brought that up in the debate and he like agreed to it, but then was like, but more cops.
We don't want, I don't think anyone, well, I mean, there are people who have that goal. We call them fascists, but I don't think anyone in the mainstream, I just said that the right-wing mainstream I don't think a lot of people, hopefully the majority of people, want a society that's a police state. I saw that comment. Be ruthless to systems, but be kind to people. That was a good Michael. I miss Michael Brooks, man.
I didn't follow him, but everything I hear about him, he's just a wonderful guy. So by the way, and to just put this off a little bit, because I haven't gone back and reviewed it yet, but I do want to get your opinion and please be honest on this.
Yeah, of course.
I got a little worked up at the beginning of the debate just because like I was hearing so much bullshit and I was just like, how did that read? Did that read as weak or did that read as like, spit and fire?
it read like about in the middle. It was effective mostly to people who know what they're talking about. It would be effective to people who are in the middle too, I think. People,
but for somebody who's like on the far right,
are going to be like, look at the triggered SJW, but like you're always going to get that from the far right. So
they say that whether you're triggered or not.
If you're not triggered, if you're perfectly calm, they're like, look at this weirdo ivory tower intellectual type. You can't please those people, but for the people that I think you're trying to reach, I think that was okay. I would temper that as much as possible. It's super easy to get angry in a debate. I've done it. Actually, when I was doing it in college, I actually had a kid threaten to fight me over like a hypothetical debate.
That's awesome.
He had like the thickest Cuban accent too, and he's just like, I'm like, bro, it's an impromptu debate. Like, calm down.
Well, I don't usually get there. I've gotten emotional twice now on modern day debate. Once was with the question when the guy justified the bombing of Syria, like or justified the war in Iraq by like Iraq is less religious now.
They're really not, though. If anything, they're more.
Well, the Middle East across the board, like religion is leaving. Like even Iran, it's like only 50% are Muslim now, and that's a Muslim dictatorship.
Yeah.
So like it's not a good point, but even if it was, just like the level of monstrosity that someone is willing to accept just to change some ideology is insane.
Well, it's an intensely materially privileged thing that we get, especially in America and especially in the first world, where you get, we're talking about this in the Homage to Catalonia series a little bit, where you get people, war is always sweet to people who have never experienced it. So you get like these armchair kids who play Command and Conquer or something, and they think that's how war is. And they don't appreciate, they think that they're just winning. They don't appreciate that victory cost like hundreds of thousands of lives, materially destroyed a country, and like immiserated millions of people. Because we're completely materially detached from that. So it's really a weird thing that happens.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to point out also, I don't remember if he brought this up in the debate, but this is in my notes beforehand. So I know he brought it up in the debate with Jake. Was he said the trust between blacks and whites would be less tense without Black Lives Matter.
Like
this is pure idealism.
Like what? Like do like does the African American community have to earn the trust of the white community? Like everyone in this country. Everyone in the world should be, but everyone in this country legally is an equal citizen that shouldn't have to worry about systemic institutional racism. That's the entire point. That's the entire point of the country. Like, I mean, we definitely don't always live up to it, but you know, it's nuts. It shouldn't matter if you're black, white, Chinese, Irish, Italian, Jewish, Greek, Turkish, whatever. You shouldn't have to earn the trust of the majority in group to be a valid human being, you know. And
sorry, we have WizBiz and Dickbeard the Merciless in the chat.
Dickbeard the Merciless, that's great.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's the best. It's the best name. WizBiz is really good too because it's an Adventure Time reference, and I referenced Adventure Time in my very first modern day debate, or one of my first ones. It was the one I did against Stryker and Enoch, and the fascists are still mad at me for that. But yeah, Dickbeard the Merciless says there was no racial tension before BLM, and he's kidding.
Yeah, of course not. I mean,
but this is a thing though that we see out of conservatives a lot, and I really do feel like they seem to think that like the social problems that activists seek to resolve are being caused by the activists because they don't hear about the social problem until they hear it from the activists.
Yeah, and that's been a thing for like the last 100 years at least, of people saying that. The Nazis famously did that in Germany, like with the Institute for Social Research. When they invented critical analysis, they ran them out of the country, saying that they were making up problems to destroy the West. They did it to Martin Luther King, that there wasn't really a problem in the South until these outside agitators were coming in. They did it with the homosexual community in this country.
There wasn't a problem with gays until they came out of the closet and wanted rights and wanted to get married and treated like everyone else. Just stay in your place and everything will be fine.
Yeah, it's
because these people are insane.
You know, they're insane, and they can't imagine a better future because they're in this kind of like ontology, and that's where they see the world as it is as unchanging and necessarily just because it is, and they can't possibly imagine a better future. And it is sad because there's some smart, decent people who get these kind of brain viruses, and you can't get them out of the right. But the best medicine for that is public debate, debunking their talking points, which is super easy to do, and advancing the dialectic as much as possible. But
so let me ask you, in your opinion, where in the debate did I look the strongest, and where could I stand to improve?
Okay, so towards the beginning, you were close to kind of losing it on him. So that kind of set a bit of a tone. So like you can use fire, but just make sure that it's very controlled. The better part of it was just bringing facts to his talking points over and over and over again, because he's just repeating the same talking points over and over again. and you're repeating this, like the actual history and the actual facts behind those talking points. His use of the statistics, you pretty decently debunked that, because they will just quote a number without the implications behind the number, without talking about over-policing and all that good, wonderful things that we live in 2020 and we get.
They really don't seem to understand that police cause crime. Like
it's counterintuitive, because you think that the police are there to prevent crime. Especially in a right-wing ideological standpoint, you assume that hierarchy imposes good behavior. Not that it takes a much more complex analysis to realize that poverty is a huge driver of crime. People who don't see the possibility of a big good future in the system will go outside of the system to try to feed their kids. People do crazy things to feed their kids. Like when you're over policed or over regulated, it'll create a sense of class. Like you don't think that you're going to be able to participate in the system because you've seen the evidence that systemic racism exists and keeps you from participating in the equal benefit of society despite hard work. So you're going to turn to crime. And it happened to the Italians when they moved here. That's why we have a mafia in this country. Well,
I remember he tried to use the Italians and the Chinese and stuff as like, well, they're not doing as poorly as the black people are right now. And it's like, they also weren't like slaves first.
Absolutely not. And then, the Italians did have a rough time when they moved here, but you're right. It wasn't institutional slavery.
And also the frickin' mafia.
I
was hoping you would make that when I asked him, like, why do you think people join gangs?
because they want nice shoes,
Well, I mean, honestly,
I'm saying,
I know but what I'm saying is, even if they join the gang ostensibly because they want nice shoes, they deserve nice shoes. Everybody deserves nice shoes. Of course.
I was being sarcastic when I said that, for the record. But you join a gang because you want to matter and you want money, and you don't have opportunity otherwise. People typically don't wake up in the morning and go like, I think I would like to smoke cocaine for a living. It's not something that happens.
So we got WizBiz. The only time I got a little heated watching this debate was when agnosticism was brought up. I spend much of my time on Twitter on that, and TJump is ruining a meme. He is. Did you, WizBiz? By the way, did you find my definition of agnosticism correct? Because it is, but like I'm not sure exactly how the agnosticism meme is currently playing out. I'm realizing that I'm getting older and getting more disconnected from whatever the freaking kids are talking about.
I stay out of religious conversations as of late. It's
Well, it's I would honestly consider myself an agnostic. Have you all ever watched Pine Creek? I first heard about TJump through his interviews with Pine Creek. Tom brought something new to the table with his pantheistic naturalism argument. I have no idea who Pine Creek is.
That's a big negative for me too.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. I like the idea of pantheistic naturalism. I just released a video on anarchism in the natural world, and I talk a little bit about it there. I have no issue with TJump on atheism or COVID numbers, but he's a shill when it comes to capitalism and BLM. Oh, yeah. Well, and here's the thing. This is why I think he's been, and I think it's through Sam Harris, but I think he has been hit with a lot of white nationalist talking points that he internalized without realizing they were white nationalism. Like when he was debating with Vaush on his, or Vosh on his channel, he brought up that like his anti-socialism thing was supposedly farms in South Africa failing when they were handed over to the
I've heard about this.
I'm pretty sure that's like white nationalist bullcrap.
It is. I think they're also supposed to be like murdering the white farmers in their sleep or something.
Yeah. It's the white nationalists are so obsessed with South Africa because obviously that was like the last bastion of segregation. And so they have all these lies that they put out about South Africa. And like anytime you hear someone bring up South Africa in the context of a race debate, you almost 100% know that person is like has been influenced by white nationalism, unless they
Yeah,
have like a really specific critique.
that and Rhodesia. I actually knew a guy who was like super into Rhodesia.
You know, Rhodesia, you should look up on Behind the Bastards. They talk about Soldier of Fortune magazine. I guarantee you that's why that guy was obsessed with Rhodesia.
No, he was a racist.
Oh no, yeah, but Soldier of Fortune magazine specifically.
Oh,
like
he was a racist and he was like 22, so I don't think he'd ever read Soldier of Fortune.
Yeah, well, maybe.
But yeah, I think they actually had to stop printing their mercenary ads a couple years ago, actually, by law.
Printing their what ads? Sorry.
Soldier of Fortune used to have like a mercenary ad in the back.
Which, hey, would you like to go get killed somewhere?
Yeah, most of them were BS. Like King of the Hill parodied that pretty good. They had to stop printing those because I think somebody actually tried to solicit murder for hire.
I remember that did in fact happen. Yes. Yeah. WizBiz, I have many opinions on it. Agnosticism. Your definition is one of the many definitions. Yours is essentially agnosticism as an epistemic position. I prefer it as a psychological state. Yeah, I think both are quite reasonable. All right, so let's talk about. So you feel like I was on the edge at the beginning of the debate, and I did better when I was bringing in like the actual facts and stuff.
Yeah. You did kind of mess up though at one point when you said that women have one testicle. That got me.
I'm dyslexic, so I speak backwards.
It happens. It was a good chuckle.
Yeah. But yeah, it was, it's important though for people to understand that, because that's like that is how they can understand how quickly and easily statistics can lie to you. Yeah. And a lot of people just don't get that. They seem to think like statistics can explain a lot, and they can, in their proper context. Yeah,
absolutely. You have to contextualize data. Like if you take a college statistics class, it's one of the first things that they tell you.
Yeah, which it's clearly TJump never did, or if he did, he doesn't remember it.
Yeah, I don't blame him for not remembering it. It's a shitty class.
Yeah. It's honestly incredibly boring. The thing that I remember the most about statistics is what garbage statistics are.
Yeah, that's probably the most important thing, unless you're actually doing statistics.
Mm-hmm. Now, okay, so as far as this whole thing, like, do you feel like overall, because back when George Floyd first, like, we were at kind of record high support for BLM. Yeah. Do you feel that support has flagged in recent months? Are we back where we started, or what's going on with that?
We're not where we started. Anytime you have a conversation like this, I think it's one of the good things from Hegel that you can kind of take. Just by having the conversation, you're changed at the end of it. So I think we've made progress. I think we're seeing a backlash against it because of panic about property destruction, panic being stoked by the right saying that they're going to destroy the suburbs. Standard panic that's happened a lot. I don't think this movement's going to go away in the same way that Occupy kind of it didn't
Occupy
go away.
Did not go away, my friend.
Not go away, go away, but like kind of fade into the background. This is I don't think this movement's gonna. Oh, sorry.
I don't think so either, especially not if Trump wins. But I do think.
Perish the thought.
The Occupy was systematically destroyed.
Yeah.
But that actually wasn't what really took us out, at least not for me.
Yeah.
I think really like losing the actual parks was a huge blow against the movement, because it forced the movement to use a lot of its money to house people in New York City who were otherwise sleeping in the parks, which I think was a mistake. I think they shouldn't have done that, but I see why they wanted to do it. But like once the park was gone, and suddenly you're having to pay like a church to let people who were sleeping in the park sleep in the church. Well, it's New York City, and that money very quickly gets eaten up by rent and everything else. But like, I think what really killed Occupy was when like several key organizers tried very blatantly to cash in on their Occupy cred in like the worst ways possible. The worst one was the one, I'm not going to say her name, but she worked for Google and said that that was the day that Occupy died for me, was that she made this proposal because she'd been listening to that mendacious mold bug guy, and said that Obama should appoint the Google CEO of America, and step down, and we live in a dictatorship run by Google.
Cyberpunk isn't supposed to be a documentary.
No, it's not. Don't make it. I just remembered like sitting there and being like, okay, there was a lot that was thrown at Occupy, and everybody was like, oh, this will be the thing that kills Occupy, and this will be the thing. You just killed it.
Well, Occupy wasn't necessarily centralized. This is an even more decentralized movement. And it started what 2 or 3 years ago is when it started getting a little bigger. I want to say, I know it wasn't with the George Floyd killing that Black Lives Matter actually started. I don't know which of the millions of shootings that happened in this country, it seems like, actually started BLM, but it hasn't gone away since it started. I was enlisting in the Army when the Trayvon shooting happened, the Trayvon Martin shooting happened.
I remember that. I was at the Million Hoodies March shortly thereafter.
Yeah, and I was in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, getting yelled at, but you had a better time, I guarantee it. But
what was really funny, okay, so when I was at the Trayvon Martin March in New York City, that was one of the times that I saw, so on N17, November 17th with Occupy Wall Street, I got into it with this guy who was clearly an infiltrator from some conservative group or something. Yeah. And what had happened was the group got all together and we did this big long speech about how it's really important that people pay for their metro ride, because we were going to go for an Occupy metro ride, like on the subway. And New York is crazy about this, and people who aren't from New York might not know that if you jump the turnstiles in front of a cop, they're going to freak out and throw you in jail, even though it's like a very minor crime.
You can shoot a man to death on Fifth Avenue, but you don't hop that dang turnstile.
Yeah, you do not hop that turnstile. And so, like, they're sitting there, and they're like, they tell everyone has to buy the Metro card, and everyone has to go through it. This is really important for the movement. And I watched this guy. And as soon as they're done talking, and as soon as we all get in and we're buying our Metro tickets and going in, he's like, just jump the turnstile. And I'm like, don't freaking do that. That's stupid. He's like, no, it's a great idea. And I'm like, okay, what the hell are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, I think we should jump the turnstiles. I mean, you know, it's the man. Don't listen to the man. And I'm like, okay, MFer, you jump the turnstile. And he stops. He's like, oh, well, I have a ticket. I'm like, okay, then shut the hell up.
Yeah, and you know, there's guys like that in every protest. And
so hang on. So the reason I brought that up though,
of course,
is I saw him again at the Million Hoodies March, and I was just like, oh, I'm watching this guy. So I started following him, and I literally watched him pull an egg out of his pocket and egg somebody in front of him in the back of the head, and then like turn around and it off. So I followed him for a while, and then he noticed that I was following him, and he left the march.
You know, that's something that's going to plague every kind of protest movement. And you have people like that who are infiltrators. You also have people who are so frustrated that they're actually just going for the violence. Yeah. And I will say that, you know, that's not going to be a productive strategy going forward. It's not. Like, if you're at a protest, really don't do violence. Don't do violence in general unless you absolutely have to defend yourself. Don't destroy property, because that's just giving the failed right wing a lot of propaganda.
Yeah, a lot of propaganda and destruction.
Yeah.
I think there are times that property destruction can be justified.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, specifically, I actually should have gotten into this because property destruction, I think, counts as violent crime. I should have mentioned this with TJump. It was so weird, by the way, how he was like, oh, so if I attacked the guy who's got the only medicine that my wife needs to live, he'd consider that self-defense. I know the freaking judge would not consider that self-defense.
No, God, no.
Yeah.
You'd be in Gitmo.
Dick Beard the Merciless. Can I offer you a nice egg in this trying? Thank you, Frank.
Yeah, please and thank you. Yeah,
I have plenty of eggs at the moment. I'm basically Gaston.
I'm actually out, so you could legitimately offer me some eggs. I have bagels but no eggs.
Yeah, you'll have to come by sometime because you're in Florida though, right?
Yeah, it's a hell of a drive.
Yeah, you'd be coming quite a ways to get my fresh eggs from my chickens.
Yeah.
By the way, dude, I think I have a trans chicken. I have this one chicken that because the thing is like, they do chickens and they have sex-linked chickens that you can just buy females because the males show up and then unfortunately they kill the males because they're not as useful. But then there's the ones that aren't sex-linked and you can't quite as easily tell who's a male and who's a female when they're chicks. Yeah. So I got about I think 7 chickens in a straight run to try to figure out, and almost all of them turned out to be roosters. And one of my chickens has, for the breed of chicken that she is, we call her Loretta. She is the palest, Barred Rock chickens. The darker they are, it usually means they're a woman. And the lighter their feathers, it almost always means they're a man. She has the lightest feathers of any of my Barred Rock chickens, and she has these tail feathers that look exactly like a rooster feathers. But she's got a smaller comb, and I'm pretty sure she's laying eggs, and she's getting bullied by all the other chickens. And I'm just like, do I have a freaking trans chicken?
You might. You should take notes. You might publish something.
Mother Nature is a mad scientist, and she doesn't care about our ideas about gender.
It really doesn't. Yeah, I saw in the comments, TJump made sweeping comments like X is always wrong, Y is always self-defense. Yeah, that's something that's typical of right-wing ideologues, because it's typical of right-wing ideology. There's no nuance.
Yeah, there's no way. And it explains also why he's completely dismissing all context.
Yeah. It's just a product of right-wing ideology. It's one of the ways that right-wing ideology is so harmful to people who engage in it. Something that might be worthy.
Don't do right-wing ideology. Do drugs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to.
That will be better for you than right-wing ideology.
Yeah, but it does hurt people who engage in it too. While they're perpetuating a system of oppression, they do have to be defeated ideologically. You do want to kind of bring people out of this failed ideology and replace it with something better. Yeah. Which is what kind of the debate is about, or what the institution of debate is about. And it's easy to view these people who engage in these ideologies as just enemies to be defeated. Yeah. But part of my existence on the left is to try to lift people up and try to do something positive.
Beyond this, I actually like TJump personally.
He doesn't seem like a bad guy. He seems like a decent dude.
He seems like a decent dude. He bought a copy of Snow White Zombie Apocalypse from me, and that's how quickly you can get me to like you. if you're like, hey, Brent, I bought Snow White Zombie, I'm like, hello, new best friend. No, here's the thing. I feel like it's like he's a liberal who. And I mean that he is a liberal, but I mean, it's like he's like a Democrat who internalized all of these awful right-wing talking points.
Yeah. I've run into that, and I'm actually trying to script something a little bit about this. I ran into a Democratic Party official the other day who was repeating the Nazi Frankfurt School conspiracy theory.
Oh my God. Really?
And, he had completely internalized it. And
wow!
He ran me down. I'm trying to end the conversation politely, but he's just just totally committed to it, and that happens more than you'd think, because there's a proliferation of right-wing ideology in this country. I mean, the 2 political candidates that we have running for president right now, this is how far we've gone to the right, and how much the right has failed us over the last 40 years. The 2 candidates are essentially a right-winger in Joe Biden and a fascist in Donald Trump. And that's the binary choice that we've set up. And a lot of
did you notice in the debate the one time we came together was
that everybody hates Biden.
Everybody hates Biden. Screw Biden for a few bad apples comments in the debate.
That was so cringe, man. I was tuning in and out of that one. I tuned in when Trump said that he brought back football and New York was dead, and that was good. And
I saw that.
I was like, tuning out, and I'm like, I should watch it. Tune back in, and it's Biden telling him to shut up. And I'm just like, this is what a humiliate. Like, this is a little bit of a tangent, but like, how humiliating is that? I know you're an anarchist and you don't believe in the state, but like, as an American, how humiliating was that debate? That we're the country that had the Lincoln Douglas debates. We're the country that put presidential debates on the radio. We're the country that televised presidential debates. We had JFK versus Nixon. We had JFK wanted to debate Goldwater, but thank God I don't think that really materialized that much. But like, we had this institution that's been completely destroyed by this failed reality game show host, and like half the country more or less is like cheering the destruction of this institution, while like the rest of the world and the entire intellectual establishment of like the planet is looking at us like agape right now.
I also wanted to bring something up here, and
Sorry,
I agree with you.
I kind of lost it there a little bit.
No, it's really depressing how far we've fallen.
Yeah.
Patricio Estrella, or Estrella, probably. Yep. Even in my country of Mexico, we still have people, usually rich white, saying that we would have been better off if we still had the Spaniards ruling over us. Yeah.
Dude, Caitlin Bennett, the poop girl.
I love that she's the poop girl.
She is. She's selling a T-shirt that says "Trump is my king." That's happening here too. Like,
oh no.
Yeah.
I mean, like, her boyfriend's a fascist, so I'm not surprised. And there's the whole Dark Enlightenment thing, and Game of Thrones was big a few years ago. You know, take it from somebody who like is literally writing a fantasy novel.
Yeah.
Monarchy is awful.
It really is. It's the worst possible one.
It's the dumbest thing. So there are all these people. They'll always give you this because what they try to say is like, enlightened dictatorship, like a benevolent dictatorship is the best form of government,
because they haven't gotten past Aristotle.
Yeah, and no, it's not, because even if it actually is like an enlightened, benevolent dictatorship that lasts exactly as long as the dictator is alive, and then they die, and whoever comes after them is horrible.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like even like the quote unquote greatest men in history, like Napoleon Bonaparte, like massive war crimes. France collapses. I'm trying to think of like other ones. Aristotle spent his whole life really disappointed that he never found the enlightened dictator that he wrote about.
Well, you know? Because first off, no sensible person wants anything to do with power. Like, just straight off the bat, like, you don't, like, power doesn't get you what you want most of the time. And I can hear the military guy disagreeing with me. But like,
I'm just cleaning my gun.
Yeah. But no, really, seriously, like, the smartest people who would probably be the best at ruling don't want to do it. And the ones who want to do it the most are usually just narcissists and sociopaths. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of a civic institution that the Romans had, where it was the path of honor, where you were supposed to have civic participation for the idea of it. And we kind of had that in this country for a little while. And that's another thing that's being like destroyed by our insane reality show culture right now. It's powered by this insane capitalist culture industry that's perpetuating these talking points and this insanity.
It's really tough. Like, I don't know exactly how we can get past it, because part of the problem, I think, is that liberal ideology, like liberal mass ideology, is not really set up to handle one, people lying to you constantly, and two, it's not set up to handle white nationalism, because like fascism, fascism like is the socialism of fools, and it will point out all the problems with capitalism, but then say, oh, it's the blacks or it's the Jews, and give a false solution. And it's a quick, easy, false solution that can be repeated immediately, as opposed to going into like deep into the actual subject at hand. I mean, like, I didn't even have time in the debate to go into like the issues with the state maintaining its
that's a whole conversation.
Yeah, like, and even TJump, it seems like he wanted to go in that direction because he brought it up.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like, yeah, I'd love to. I would love to talk to him about why the state is garbage and we should get rid of it. But like, I knew that was if I jumped down that rabbit hole, I would not have time, and I would be having an argument with someone that I wasn't prepared for, who doesn't have the education to understand the points that I'm making.
Yeah. And the other thing that I think that liberalism wasn't prepared for in the 20th century was the rise of industrial culture, because before, like, when liberalism kind of came about, we had a culture industry that was basically a cottage industry. We had the newspapers, you had gatekeepers, you had news as a loss leader for a while when we invented television. But now the talking points that you're engaging with are cultural products that are being produced and distributed on an industrial scale, and they're produced to copy other things that are profitable. That's why you see so many MAGA channels. That's why you see like Ben Shapiro and Dave Rubin and PragerU, because these things are profitable, and the culture industry will reproduce profitable things over and over again. And liberalism has a real hard time dealing with that. And the answer to that one, if I knew the answer to that one, I'd be published in a few journals.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's essentially the problem with markets as a mechanism. Markets have bias towards what has been successful in the markets before. And to just bias towards the past in general. So EYTPS, opinion on Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell is a ghoul.
I was afraid that you were going to be more generous than I was going to be.
No, he's an absolute ghoul. He is one of probably the most terrible people that you can run into, just because, he hasn't committed a genocide or anything.
He endorsed Pinochet, dude.
But he endorsed freaking Pinochet. The thing is but here's what makes Thomas Sowell really, really awful, and just like one of those people that is like just a fart in human form, and that's that he was a Maoist. He literally, and you'll even see like one of those memes that they share of him is like, oh, you want your fair share? Tell me, what's your fair share of something someone else worked for? Well, guess what? That's a freaking Marxist argument.
That is like literal Marx. Is it confirmed that he was? I've heard that story before. Yeah. But like, is it confirmed that he was a Maoist, or is this like a Dave Rubin? Like, I left.
No, it's confirmed he was a Maoist.
Yeah. Okay.
I think he was even possibly associated with the Black Panthers, but I don't know that 100%. But the issue is this is the deal with Thomas Sowell, and you will see this time and time again. And this is a little bit like what happened with some of the people who tried to cash in on Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah.
When there is a popular movement of any kind happening in thought and in the streets, people will get attracted to it, and they will think that there will be a revolution. They think that this movement is going to overthrow, and that there will be all of these positions opened up for them. They're essentially Littlefinger with the chaos is a ladder.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, I got to get good with this movement so that I can reap the benefits once this movement topples society. And that's what Thomas Sowell did initially. When he became a Maoist, he thought there would be a revolution. He thought that once the revolution came, he'd be like king communist. And so like he jumps on the train. And then when he realizes that there's not going to be a revolution, and there's no money in being a Maoist, what does he do? He does the God that failed. He leaps to the other side, and the other side will welcome him with open arms, because there is a lot of money, especially for someone who's from a minority community, that will throw their own people under the bus in order to justify like the excesses and existing power of the system. And that is why Thomas Sowell is a freaking ghoul. Now, Bobby, what did you want to say about him?
Oh, I was just going to say that he's justified every failed right-wing economic policy that's immiserated millions of people across the world, endorsed explicit fascist regimes, and done it for essentially money and a place in the Hoover Institution with people who hate him.
Sowell is that nerd dude from Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide come to adult life. I don't know what Ned's Declassified.
He's right. He's absolutely right. He's like 1,000,000% right. I've read that. I also saw above him. He posted so the animal mascot craze was because of capitalism, Battletoads, and Bubsy. Yeah, exactly. Actually, that's a perfect example of the culture industry replicating itself over and over again as long as something is profitable.
Yeah, well, and Battletoads, clearly Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it's the same animal cartoon mascot thing. You get Sonic, you get Bubsy, you get all the other ones. I can't
We've
remember.
got and now a bunch of people are sexually attracted to that.
Yeah, oh God.
I beat Battletoads as well on NES, and yeah, that's an incredible game. And yeah, it's super awful and hard. But
like Cuphead.
My favorite thing, Cuphead. I'm playing Sekiro. I've died about 100 times to the, and I'm not exaggerating. I've died about 100 times to the final boss.
Yeah.
Like, I need to beat the boss. I need to get good and beat the boss, and then like do my analysis of Sekiro and the themes in it, because like Sekiro actually has some pretty interesting things to say about like the generational politics, children, and like honestly, like I think it may be an inherently anti-capitalist work.
Well, most art is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, ironically, I'm actually playing Empire Total War, which is an older game, but it's an imperialism simulator, which is really ironic for my ideology.
I think that was, I forget who it was that put out a video about this, but they were like, I accidentally did a colonialism in.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like I was trying to be nice, and now I've conquered like half of North America.
Yeah. But it was in what was it? It was I haven't played Minecraft, but apparently like in Minecraft, to get villagers like in your thing, you can't just get them. So like you can't build them, so like you have to kidnap them and make them live like in your Minecraft area.
Did you ever play Black Flag, Assassin's Creed Black Flag?
No, because I thought I'd be so annoyed.
It's actually really.
Oh, wait! Assassin's Creed Black, where you're a pirate.
The pirate ship, yeah.
Yeah, I played that one.
Yeah, you're like harvesting dudes who are like on little rafts on the ocean and forcing them to be a part of your crew. I'm just like, I'm a job creator.
You know, though, piracy, I gotta say. Yeah, and piracy has gotten a bad rap in a lot of ways, because like pirates oftentimes were like, a lot of the pirate crews tended to be staffed by former slaves, because pirates loved to attack slave ships and recruit the slaves on the ships, because they knew that those slaves would never betray them and would always fight to the death. Because otherwise you go back to being a slave. So like, what are you going to do? You're going to betray your new brothers? Also, a lot of gay pirates. You
should look up Harry Barbarossa.
Uh-huh.
It's an interesting story. You'll like it.
I'll check it out. Yeah. I enjoyed Black Flag, actually. Sorry, when you said Black Flag, I thought you were referring to
Henry Rollins.
Say what?
Henry Rollins.
No, I was actually I was worried. Like, I just realized that I made up this Assassin's Creed, but I thought it was an Assassin's Creed taking place during the French Revolution.
No, that happened. It was awful. That actually got me off the series.
Okay. Wow. So I'm making up terrible ones that actually.
It's bad. Like they removed the insta kills. The guns don't kill people immediately. They tried to charge you for stealth boosts as DLC. It was terrible. This is not good.
It's, you know what, that series had so much promise, and then no. So I've been doing Sekiro. I'm like, just as like just a little taste of this in Sekiro. Like, what's really interesting is like how that game talks and thinks about children, because like the opening cutscene is literally like a battle where like between like samurai and stuff in Japan, and then there's a like old ninja who comes by and finds this little kid, like a toddler, like going through and like, you know, basically walking the battlefield trying to find like stuff to sell. And
looting.
Yeah, he's looting, and like the ninja like pops his sword, like his katana out, and like cuts the kid's chin a little bit, and the kid just like kind of looks up and grabs the sword, and you see the blood, but the kid doesn't react, and the ninja's like, and that's you. Like, you were a war orphan in the game who was taken in by this crazy kooky old ninja dude, and like the dude's he's teaching you the iron code of the shinobi, and rule number 1 of the iron code of the shinobi is always do what I tell you.
That's a good one. That's a good
And
one.
it's like, yeah, and it's like everybody in the game. And then on top of that, you find out that like if you go to this Buddhist temple and you're kind of paying attention, you find out that essentially the monks have been sacrificing thousands of children to try to breed like one immortal child.
Oh Jesus.
And like it's very interesting, and like because you can see that dynamic and how like the ruling class abuses and exploits children by getting them into the military and like basically like living off of their life and indoctrinating them.
It's pretty. I should play that. I'm still hyped for Cyberpunk. That's what I'm waiting for.
I'm looking forward to it as well. Well, we had the real cyberpunk possibility that was already brought up in the stream.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be a documentary.
Yeah. But those LGBTQ kids can't get jobs either because there's no job market. The economy is dead. They don't have criminal records. It's not how they dress. No jobs. Yeah, I mean...
Well, capitalism sucks.
Yeah, capitalism is absolute garbage. And again, like, it's not... Really what COVID needs to prove to everybody is we don't actually need this super high GDP. We actually don't need capitalism, and we don't need to work as many hours as we do. Like, yeah, people are having a really hard time now, but we're not seeing supply problems. We're not seeing the actual economy melt down. What we're seeing is the problems about the economy of keeping people like on the edge, like on the edge of poverty to incentivize them to work doesn't really work when it's not a good idea that they work, you know?
Yeah. And you know, there's the myth of, eternal growth, like 3% growth forever. If you look at that on a long enough graph, it becomes almost a 90-degree thing. It's not going to happen. It's not economically possible.
Well, I mean, infinite growth.
I mean, like overall, like the trend of growth is possible, but like maintaining 3% growth every year in an economy, it's not economically sustainable or possible, or even a good idea necessarily.
No, well, because like what's important to remember is the growth. It's based on money, and money isn't real, particularly not fiat currency. But like, so you could arguably have the market always going up, except for when it crashes and doesn't, but mostly like it's trending up. Like Donald Trump in the debate the other night, part of it that I did see where he was like, oh, we built the greatest economy in American history. Literally everyone builds the greatest economy in American history. That's just how capitalism works.
Oh, and a little aside there, and I have to say it because I say this every time I hear that. The life expectancy went down under Donald Trump. Millions of people lost insurance under Donald Trump. Real wages are lower than 1978 under Donald Trump. The workforce participation rate, which is real unemployment, is lower than the late 1970s. So that's bad. Income inequality is the worst it's been since the 1920s. Education is in the toilet. People are like one paycheck away from, or one medical emergency away from being in debt forever. There's $1.7 trillion. There's nothing about the economy right now that's the best economy in history, and like not even in like the memory of generations that are alive right now.
Yeah. And I mean, like it by the numbers, it looks like it's the best, but like, no, it's not actually the best. And like, again, a lot of this stuff, a lot of these benefits have been made because huge wealth transfers from the working class to the upper class. And also another huge issue with it is that like, a lot of like the new disruptive products, basically the idea behind every new app is, what if we did the same thing, but we didn't have unions or safe working conditions? Like, what if we did taxi cabs, but like made sure that the people that drove the taxi cabs weren't licensed and didn't have any pension, and you know,
they just lost a suit to that in California.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we're disrupting everything. Yeah, you're being a dick.
Yeah, exactly.
You just found a way to be a dick slightly around the loop. So, all right. Anything else from the debate that like you felt needed to be brought up?
No, that's about it. It's the nature of engaging these talking points is that you have to hit them with facts, and you have to do it over and over and over again because they'll keep replicating themselves.
Yeah.
Whenever these talking points get an audience, they'll be replicated ad nauseum. and the best way to deal with that is to just beat them down as much as possible. Obviously, Black Lives Matter, and obviously that doesn't conflict with the phrase that all lives matter, but all lives matter is a phrase concocted by the right specifically to drown out the idea that Black Lives Matter, who are disproportionately affected by systemic racism.
Yeah, which, by the way, TJump did agree with at the end of the
He did, and to his credit.
WizBiz, I was unaware of how much MDD's chat hates you, Brent.
There's a lot of weird people in that chat, bro.
Yeah, dude, MDD, like their audience, you got to understand with MDD. So their audience is primarily flat earthers, creationists,
oh Lord,
and neo-Nazis. Like those are the most. Those are like that's not everybody that watches modern day debate, but the ones that comment, yeah, it's them. I haven't seen the comments yet, but yeah, they absolutely hate me. But you notice, like they hate me because like I'm making really good points and they don't want to admit it because I keep getting brought back and going like higher and higher, and I get like a lot of respect from all the other debaters, and that just pisses them off more. Yeah. But yeah, there was one thing that I wanted to read here because like this was the big thing that like I sort of brought this up in the debate, but I wanted to make sure that it came out here, which is I made this note. People don't feel that the killing of white people is particularly significant because whites are not stereotypically seen as a marginalized political group. When the cops kill a white person, it is not because they are white, it is for some other reason. And to attack police brutality against whites, they would have to admit that policing as currently realized is broken and often does more harm than good, and liberals, both the Republican and Democrat variety, don't want to admit this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I brought that up in the debate. Like, it is beyond the Overton window right now to question policing as an institution.
And the way that we do policing too isn't universal, because I know Americans don't leave the country a lot, but like this isn't normal what we're doing right now.
Gordon Fiala, I'm all three, and yeah, you destroyed him. Well, thank you, Gordon. I really appreciate that.
Well, sing the Panzerlied and have a nice nice beer on a flat saucer, brother.
Yeah, I don't know if the all three is coming from something else, or he was saying he was a flat Earth creator.
I hope not, but I'm just being a jerk.
But like, by the way, like, did you see that video on Flat Earth that Folding Ideas put out?
No, I try to not engage in flat Earth as much as possible.
Oh, yeah. So it is a good idea. Folding Ideas put one out that was like, because the latest like flat Earth dunkings those are pretty funny, but the one that he put out, the Folding Ideas, he tied it in like the flat Earth conspiracy with like basically like completely runaway rabid religious fundamentalism, and that you got to realize it's not just people that think the earth is flat. They have specific spiritual beliefs based around like the earth being flat encased in a sphere, like it's the
that's a real thing.
Yeah, in the firmament.
Yeah, there was a guy in like 2006. He was like a oil billionaire, and he was sending around this thing called the Atlas of Creation. He was a Muslim guy. And that was one of the things that he was saying, was that the earth was actually flat. Creationism and all that good stuff.
I can tell you objectively that the earth is not flat from my personal experience. When I fly to, Iceland, I wore this shirt, by the way. I didn't get to bring it up in the debate, but like Iceland, their police killed the first person ever in the history of their country, like just a few years ago.
Oh God!
Like,
good for them, catching up.
Yeah, catching up. They've got a lot more to go. But like, it just goes to show that. And interesting thing about Iceland, actually, they had almost no homelessness and no crime until they did neoliberal reforms, became part of the EU, and suddenly there was more inequality in their society, and suddenly, boom, we have all of this crime being caused. But like when I flew to Iceland, I've taken flights directly from New York to Iceland and back. And the thing that you realize when you go back from Iceland as opposed to Iceland is it takes like 2 hours longer. Like an hour and a half, 2 hours longer to go back, because again, you're going against the rotation of the earth.
Yeah. Well, I live near a beach, and I can literally look across the ocean and see that it's not flat. I also used to do some long distance shooting, and you have to take the spin of the Earth into effect if you're shooting like the sniper's half mile, which I was no good at, so I don't do anymore.
Yeah, wait, hang on. Did I just hear that you don't do the sniper thing because you have to take the Earth's curvature into account?
Oh, that wasn't the only thing, man. I was trying to shoot at about a half a mile with a 308. It was more calculation and less shooting than I actually wanted to do. So I didn't want to do math homework every time I went to the range. Basically, is what happened with that.
Well, yeah, it's interesting, like where you get to be a modern sniper, like with regard to with regard to everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad, Gordon, by the way, I'm glad that I destroyed TJump, because he needed to get destroyed on that issue, because like his position, unfortunately, and it is horrifying. So thank you, by the way, very much on that. So, oh, by the way, yeah, Donald Trump is a ghetto trick. Oh, I love my followers have all the best names for their
That is actually a really good one.
Yeah, this is honestly one of my absolute favorite shirts. It's super comfortable, and you can get it in Reykjavik. Like, there's a couple of places that sell it. Like, I really love Iceland just in general. It's just such a wonderful country. Like, and has the entire country's population is the same as like northern Kentucky. A lot more fun than northern Kentucky.
Yeah, a little bit less poverty.
Less poverty. Well, you know, the thing is like in Iceland, I was thinking we were going to get a chance to bring this up, because when I debated David D. Friedman, he's a big fan of like medieval Iceland. And I thought he was going to bring it up, and I was like chomping at the bit, because when I was in the museum in Reykjavik, I found a scroll from like 1220 AD that had stronger welfare laws than the United States has now.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah, and you can see why they would have it, especially up there, because it's not like if you have homeless people and they have nowhere to stay in Iceland, they're a homeless popsicle like within like a day.
They'll come for your castle eventually too.
Yeah. Well, more like they'll come for your hut. There's no real castles. There was a big problem they had with homelessness in like the 17th century, I think, and there was this custom in Iceland that was like, if somebody came to your door at night on the way somewhere else, like you were supposed to put them up for the night. And when they adopted more European ways of handling property, this caused a significant homeless population, which then caused a population of perpetual hobos who are always going to a meeting somewhere else, just circling the island.
Oh man,
I love Iceland. All right, so we've been at this for a little while now. Why don't you plug your pluggables? I'm Moustache Mafia on YouTube. It's a nice little cool black emblem when you search us. We're the Moustache Mafia podcast on SoundCloud. We have a podcatcher that you can get through, I think, the SoundCloud, and we're also mustachemafia.space, and I'm MoustacheBob2 on Twitter. My co-host is Space Rocco, SPACE Rocco on Twitter, if you want to engage with us there. We should have a new episode, I think, by Saturday. Scheduling issues and COVID is just not fun lately. Yeah, it's tough. We should. So we need to get the next chapter of Homage to Catalonia in.
Yeah, definitely.
And you wanted me on your podcast, but I was the boss. My wife was mad at me for all the streaming I was doing. So.
Yeah, I got busy too last week, so we'll work something out.
Okay, cool. I'm very much looking forward to that. And for those of you, my name is Brenton Langle. Snow White Zombie Apocalypse, which was upside down. The second issue has been shipped to me. Like, they charged my credit card for the printing, and it's being shipped to me. As soon as the comics are to me, I am signing them and sending them out. And then I will be launching a Kickstarter to pay for the creation of issue number 3. And guys, this I think is honestly going to be a pretty valuable comic going forward, particularly with the Ringo nods and how rare the Kickstarter things are going to be, especially because they're going to be all numbered and signed from me. So, get while the getting is good.
So, Action Comics #1, kids.
Yeah. That's exactly what it will be. And and also, so this has been Insurrection with Brenton Lengel. Keep a lookout on my channel for cool pop political stuff. I'm bigger than Chapo.
You gotta lose that weight, man.
Gotta lose that weight. I will make that my that's my goal. I'm gonna make that my slogan and then get on Chapo. My slogan. And thank you, WizBiz. Yeah, please do pick them up. You can get the first issue from Scout Comics, and then like the second issue should be published through Scout Comics soon. And then once I run the Kickstarter for issue number 3, there will be a chance to buy issues number 1 and number 2 as well with number 3 if you support the Kickstarter. So, all right, I will catch you guys later. Bobby, always a pleasure to have you on here. That's and I totally won. And I'm bigger than Chapo. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.